blue-collar background. My father is a manual laborer, so there really wasn't a strong influence for me to come to college. It wasn't really something we talked about. It was the community I grew up in. My friends' parents didn't go to college. I didn't really have any mentors that went to college. The reason I wanted to come to college was to obviously start kind of a legacy for my children, my family, that comes after me. Growing up in that kind of environment, there's kind of a glass ceiling, not glass ceiling, there's kind of like a limit to what you can achieve. You feel like being raised in that environment, there's a certain type of people that go to college and a certain type of people that don't go to college. Because of my environment, I felt like I was in the group that just wasn't meant for college because of my environment. And so for me, breaking out of that mold was a big deal. I'll go over later kind of what brought me to go to college, but for me the main reason was just kind of further my opportunities and hopefully pass this information on to my children. So.
Question 2. My freshman year, I had a really rough time just with my study skills. I really was not prepared for college in that way when I came from high school. I never studied in high school and I didn't realize how much studying you have to do here in college. So my first semester, when I took a class and I ended up failing the class, then it really just set me, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? How can I fix this? I've already messed up, but now how am I gonna fix it? So just like Alex said, I went and I seeked help, and now I'm in OLA. So now instead of having to worry about my studying and just hire people to keep you accountable and to teach you the right way to get things done in school, just can really turn things around. And I went from doing really bad in my classes and my first semester getting barely a 3.0 to now I can get all A's in my classes and just really stay on top of things. So like Alex said, just kind of getting plugged in and using your resources here, because there are so many people who want to help you. So just asking for help when you need it.
And my best advice would be to get into good habits during your freshman year. It's definitely a time of learning and growing, and that's okay if some of the things you try out don't work. Some of the habits that I've gotten into, first and foremost, with my faith, setting a daily quiet time has been so important in my growth and in staying in college. Sometimes it's going to get really hard, and having that grounding has been really important to me. And also, getting good habits with your health, with exercising, with eating right. All of that's going to contribute to your success. If you're not sleeping, you're not going to do well. I tried out the whole no sleep thing. It didn't work for me. It's probably not going to work for you either. And then with your studies, get into good study habits. This is super lame, but when I study with earplugs in. And the time that I study, I try to be really focused, because 3 hours spent very focused are better than 6 hours watching TV with your book open next to you. You're probably going to accomplish a little more. And then you have free time too. It's great.
Yeah, so being a senior in high school and deciding to go to Baylor, it was my first big decision I made on my own as a big girl. So it was huge for me, and it was huge for my family. It made me a stronger person, and I definitely had a lot more confidence in myself. So I had a lot more confidence leaving high school and entering Baylor and entering that smooth transition. But for my parents, it was huge because not only was I the oldest sibling out of 3 to choose to go to college, but I would be the first to graduate. So it was scary, but it was really thrilling. I had that huge pressure of setting a really good example for my younger brother and sister to go to college, to make it, to graduate, to do well. So that was very difficult, but I overcame that through the smooth transition at Baylor. And for my friends, I guess, from high school, it was interesting because everybody was all going their separate ways. I didn't have a best friend coming with me here to Baylor. I lived in Austin for 8 years, so I was only leaving for about an hour and a half. So then my parents moved back to California. So I had this transition of leaving my friends about an hour and a half away from here, but not too far, so I always knew I had friends close by. But it was different because most of my friends had parents that already had gone through this experience and could help them, through this college process, applying to colleges, visiting colleges, deciding on when and getting there, where my parents had never gone through that before. So I had that whole experience of learning on my own, my parents learning for the first time with me, where it felt like I was learning. It was hard because I felt like I was doing it on my own, even though I wasn't. My parents were there with me the whole way, but all my friends had it really easy. So it was pretty difficult, but I overcame that, and my parents have and always have been my biggest support system. So.
Well, like I said, in high school, I didn't work too hard on my grades, but I focused a lot on my extracurricular activities. So I was involved in student council, so I was our student body president, and at the time, that was probably the most challenging thing I've ever taken on. It was just so many responsibilities, like we were always having meetings and coordinating different events and things like that we had at our high school. So I think just that experience of having to have so many different moving parts and talking to so many different people at our school and in our school district just really set me up for just being really organized in college. And I think that stemmed from just like always keeping up with a planner, and just every single thing that I do, I pretty much write it down and I always check it off whenever I do it. So I think just like setting yourself up for just being organized and just keeping on top of things like you were in high school with your other organizations can really help you in college.
Last semester I was in Madrid, Spain, and that was a really interesting experience. I grew a lot during that time. So I'll just talk to you guys a little bit about what the before part looked like and during part. So if you want to study abroad, you start the semester before you want to go. So like if you're going to study abroad in the spring, the deadline's already passed, sorry. But it's about this time, usually around October 15th for the spring semester, or during the spring semester in March for the next semester. And what you do is you go over to the study abroad office, which is connected to Moody Library. It's really hard to find, which is really good experience for when you're wandering around the streets of whatever country you're in. You get really good at being lost and mooching off Wi-Fi, let me tell you. And so I chose to not go on a Baylor program. I went on an exchange program. And if I could do something differently about how I studied abroad, I wish I would have chosen a Baylor program. That way you're with Baylor professors and some of your Baylor classmates. But even that being said, I'm really thankful for the experience that I did have. And I also got a lot of scholarships from Baylor to study abroad. And in fact, I ended up going and spending a semester in Madrid for cheaper than I would have gone at Baylor, which is pretty amazing. When else can you go to Europe for 6 months for free, you know? And so even after all the traveling that I did while I was abroad, and I went to Italy and to Ireland, France, Africa, I was all over the place. Even with all that traveling and all of the spending I did, I still came out at a cheaper dollar amount than it would have been for a semester at Baylor. So I would say take advantage of it. Don't let college get away from you. It does go by really fast. And if you want to study abroad, that usually happens in your sophomore and junior year. So now's the time to be thinking about it. And I promise you, like, no matter what your experience is, you're going to grow and learn so much during that time that it will be worth it.
Start with what am I now doing to prepare for that success and what I have been doing. Starting with just the tip. It sounds funny, but always read every email. I still, started out not reading about 75% of my emails when I started college, and I do regret that now because there are so many opportunities out there, and just getting to the bottom of that email might make you find that one thing that catches your eye. You all get those emails from career management and career and professional development, and yet right now you might not even know what that means, and you kind of have that mentality, well, I have 3 more years here or 3.5 more years here, I'll get to that next year. And for me, I was fortunate enough to have a mentor that did tell me some advice on how to, follow up with these career management type services. But if you do get in the mentality of continually just deleting those emails and putting it off, by the time you actually do go to apply for a job, there's not going to be much on your resume, and it's going to be, that point in time where you do look back and you kind of regret and wish that you would have done things earlier. For me, right now, Handshake and HireAware, I think both are still operating, but we're more transitioning to Handshake. Keeping that information updated with everything that you're doing and all the organizations you're participating in, that makes a big difference because employers are going on there and filtering through results, figuring out if you're going to be a good fit for them, and that's going to be your way of seeing if they are a good fit for you as well. And then just last thing, I would say, preparing yourself by going to resume writing sessions and interviewing, I guess they call them like mock interviewing sessions, are one resource that I would say is very valuable, because it's one thing to just go into a interview without any practice, but just like anything in this world, practice can make perfect, and just being able to go and being confident that you know the questions that they're going to throw at you or questions that you can't answer, it just gives you a lot of peace of mind and confidence when walking in those doors.
For me, my situation was pretty unique. My freshman year, I decided to bring back an organization that wasn't on campus. It was much more involved than what normally would happen, as far as fraternity recruitment and how that looks. For me, just time management is key. You gotta mark out your time, have a plan. Like when you're gonna study and when you're not. You have to be intentional about it because you don't have a lot of time to not use that time wisely. So, my advice is just be more organized with the time you do have. And I would encourage you to get involved. If you have any questions, I'll be down to talk one-on-one. Just come let me know.
Something I think is really important that we didn't really touch on here was, besides internship, outside of Baylor work experience, I really think work study will really help you all. Depending on your situation or if you're not in work study, I think working while you're in school really helps because I've been employed since my sophomore year. I think it was wise of me to not work freshman year and worked my sophomore, junior, and senior years of high school, and then I didn't work my freshman year here at Baylor just because I wanted to learn how to manage my time well, and I think a lot of people do. So I don't see a lot of freshmen working typically where I work or other places. So I think it's smart for freshmen to not work maybe their first semester or second, but I definitely think it's very impactful and very impressive on your resume when you work while you're in school, whether that's where I work at the advising office downstairs, so when you guys can get advised your sophomore year, past your sophomore year with the advisors, that's where I work. So you not necessarily having to be at the business school, I just chose it for convenience, but it's an awesome job. Working, whether you work off campus at a bank, whether you work at Chick-fil-A, I don't know, wherever you work, it's just awesome to learn how to manage that time, because when you are starting to interview for employers and all these jobs your junior, senior year, or even internships, they want to know if you've worked before, and at least if you haven't done an internship before, you can say that you've done an on-campus job before, or you've worked while you've been in school. And so it's really impressive, especially not only for internships, but for employers, that you've been able to handle a job. It doesn't have to be so impressive as it doesn't matter if it's a restaurant or it's a business school. It's just the fact that you're managing your time